Curt Cignetti agreeing to stay as the head coach of Indiana football signifies that the Hoosiers are a powerhouse to be reckoned with for the foreseeable future.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, and it is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We got our man, Brian Smith, our Locked On recruiting expert, host of the Portal Podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network, joining us on today's show, and lots to talk about today. We're going to compare the Big Ten versus the SEC. Who has the better chance to win the national title as it stands right now? Plus, recruiting updates around Indiana football with Curt Cignetti signing that extension. We begin there, Brian, because Curt Cignetti ain't going anywhere. The drama was fun for a while. It was stressful there for a few days, but Curt Cignetti's not going to Happy Valley. He's not going to Gainesville. He's not going to Oklahoma State. He's staying right here in Bloomington as the head coach of the Indiana Hoosiers for a long, long time.
If you sign somebody to $11 million plus, you're serious about football. Let me start with that. Secondarily, this is a sign that even after Curt retires from the game, which I assume it'll be from Bloomington, Indiana means to do business on the football side of the ledger. I never thought I would say that. But when I saw his contract, I'm like, holy cow. So they've decided to pony up. And it's wild. This is one of the very first times that I've seen anybody in the Big Ten really buck up financially. Like Wisconsin was the traditional downtrodden program that had a run. It's over, obviously. But they are terrible. But
apparently still back Luke Fickell is what I saw earlier this week, that they're still ready to go.
Yeah, that's called we don't want to pay any money because we stink so bad it just doesn't matter. That's all that is. That's a money grab.
That's fair.
But Indiana, they're doing a money grab in both directions. They're investing and they're also filling the stadium. That's the best way to do business, my friend. You got to bring in money to spend money. And right now, the recruiting list, we'll talk about that a little bit here in a little while. They're improving that. Their staff is locked in. This is something that I did not see because I thought Cignetti would seriously take a look at Penn State and somebody said that was done really fast.
Yeah.
He must have a lot of faith in the administration because he has Indiana over a barrel if he wants, because they're not going to get somebody else like him. It's not very likely. Just be honest. For him to get it done in like 2 days tells me Indiana just said, screw it. Here's the check. Sign right here. I was like, holy cow. Because the Florida job and all these, he knew what jobs were going to be open. He talks to the agents. He knows.
Yeah. He was going to get paid one way or the other. I mean, it was going to happen.
But he decided to do it at a program that never wins. Like, he's confident in himself, the Indiana administration, his players, his coaches, because you don't sign it in general. If you're most guys, they would have looked around, and he did it right away.
Mm-hmm.
Good for Indiana University and good for Cignetti.
Well, you and I talked last week. I mean, it was going to lead to money, and it was going to be out there that he was going to get phone calls, and he may entertain some of those. But now that Indiana, you said, ponied up, I mean, I think this was already in the works for a guy who just got an extension in 2024. Now he's got another one through 2023. No, 2033, apologies, through 2033, making over $11 million a year. And here's the kicker, Brian, fully guaranteed. They could fire him tomorrow. I think the contract starts November 1. But if they fire him anytime between now and 2033 without cause, he is owed every single penny. Plus, they released all the details this week of all the different incentives that he has, right? Finishing a certain spot in the Big Ten, winning a Big Ten title, making the college football playoff, winning it all. I mean, he has millions of dollars to earn, plus a retaining bonus that he gets every year he coaches there. It's unbelievable the amount of money that Indiana's putting out here.
Yeah, I would say that it's pretty safe that Cignetti is not going anywhere. He's happy. He's very comfy. And Indiana's invested in it. And the facilities are better and everything now. So
yeah,
everything's looking in the right direction. So my question is, and this is the biggest one. What are they going to do when the coordinators start getting the phone calls, which some of them might have, because both of them are good. And
Very good.
Kuntz is the real good defensive tackle coach. He's a young guy. They've got a lot of people. So this isn't over, but Sig staying gives them a chance to keep as many guys as possible. And by the way, when you're a really good program, you're always going to lose assistants. That's even Bobby Bowden, Joe Paterno, those guys lost assistants too. But Indiana's at a better spot now than they've ever been in their history. I can guarantee you that. There's never been a time like this before. So
yeah,
it's really awesome. And it's nice to see a little change in the Big Ten too, because it's always been the same schools.
I mean, look at across college football, right? I mean, you've got teams in the Big 12 that are now competing. Heck, Vanderbilt's ranked in the top 10 in the SEC. Georgia Tech's ranked in the top 10 of the ACC. I mean, there is some parity now in college football because of the landscape that we're in and the different era that we're in. And because these schools like Indiana and Vanderbilt have realized you can win football games again. You can do what it takes to buy into a coach and a team and a program. And now you have a team like the Hoosiers ranked higher than they've ever been before, ranked second in the country. But Brian, I toss this to you and ask the question, were you surprised to see Indiana beat Michigan State 38-13 the way that they did after all the drama? Because all of last week was Cignetti to Penn State or Cignetti to Florida or Cignetti's leaving. He signs the extension. The team shows up and they handle business. Were you surprised to see that?
Not really, because Cignetti's obviously a very confident man. I would imagine that he told everybody this is going to get taken care of. Now, he may not have been able to give everything details to the team, but I'm sure he put it out there because it can be a big distraction.
Yeah.
And just to give an example to people, Lane Kiffin is number 1 on the board for the University of Florida. Guess who University of Florida plays in a few weeks? Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, yep.
So,
and Ole Miss lost this past weekend to Georgia. Now they had every chance to win that game. They just blew it, but still.
Yeah. So these situations can fester.
Yeah.
The Ole Miss situation's worse because Penn State, I mean, that team's a dumpster fire, but it's unbelievable. I'm saying that some people had them preseason number 1, but the bottom line is Indiana got it done in like 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because as soon as Penn State got involved, it was done. So my guess is he let the team and the coaches know, because they weren't perfect, but they were still really good considering the circumstance. And that is what I call a helmet game. Nobody's excited about playing Michigan State right now. They're not very good.
Yeah.
But Indiana still beat them pretty handily. And that's a good sign, because a lot of teams in that circumstance, it's a clunker. It's 21-14 with 3 minutes to go, and you've had 3 turnovers and blah, blah, blah. They still won by 25.
And if it was on the road, it may have been that way, right? I mean, if this was East Lansing, not that that is a crazy environment right now, but even just having to travel and do all that could have made that complicated, right?
Sure. But how many coaches do you trust more than Cignetti on the road right now? Especially after Iowa is one of those places.
Yeah.
And they didn't play their best game, and they still won in clutch fashion. So this guy knows how to handle adversity. Remember, he's been around a long time, and he's coached under Saban, among others. He's pretty well battle tested, so give him his due.
Indiana keeps winning, and so does Curt Cignetti. He's extended, he's here, and he ain't going anywhere. And the Hoosiers are winning on the field and trying to continue to do so in recruiting as well. We talk about the impact that Cignetti's contract has on the Hoosiers recruiting for 26, 27, and beyond with our man Brian Smith of the Portal Podcast next here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how we craft every model. And you can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. So, like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. I love how Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. And the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level each and every week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. All right, welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. We got our man Brian Smith of the Portal Podcast. You can check that out. Same way you find Locked On Hoosiers, you can find the Portal on that site as well. And we do want to talk a little Indiana football recruiting, as we try to do at least once a week. And we'll start by Cignetti's contract, and then we'll go to the Hoosiers continuing to win games and talk about a couple of specific players, Brian, who have been on campus or have the Hoosiers in their top 6 and things like that. But in the recruiting world, in the recruiting landscape, which you cover so well, what does this do for Indiana moving forward, that you have Curt Cignetti extended for so long, that he's going to be here and there really is no threat anymore of him taking a bigger or better job?
First things first, you're going to keep your commitments. You always got to start with the base. The kids that are getting ready to sign in December, you're going to keep them, because I guarantee you they were getting phone calls. They were getting people asking them, hey, why don't you take a visit here? Blah, blah, blah. And that's fine. But now that's taken care of. Secondarily, with that contract, mom, who's the most important one usually in a decision, she's going to feel more comfortable. They know who the head coach is going to be if their son goes to Indiana University. That can be anybody, California, Maryland, whatever it may be. You know, like this is an example. There's a corner from South Florida that's visiting or visited this past week. I forget which one. It's either this weekend or last weekend. Amari Nugent. He's a kid at American Heritage. It's one of the best programs in the country. National Recruit has offers from everybody. He's coming into town. Like, those kinds of players aren't going to make the trek all the way from Fort Lauderdale unless they know who the coach is going to be.
Right.
So that's a really big deal. And then finally, you look at the list. Like, I went through the list of kids and I was scrolling because they had so many visitors. I don't know a ton of them yet, but they got a bunch of guys even from 28 like coming to Bloomington from all over. Virginia, D.C., Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, all over the country, they're coming to visit. Again, this solidifies your chance to get these kids on campus in the first place. And now he's a little bit of a celebrity. I don't know what he's ranked, but in salary, Sig's got to be top 5 in the nation, I would imagine.
He's third now. He is third, according to yearly salary, 11.6, only behind Kirby Smart and I think Ryan Day. I had it pulled up the other day. I think those are the only two ahead of him, which would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally fair. So that means something. When you see that contract and you float it out there and you bring in these kids onto campus, they're going to be able to say, okay, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
This is where I'm going to be able to come and know the coach is going to be here. There aren't many places like that. Like Ryan Day is not going to leave Ohio State. Okay, I get it. There are very few like that. So the question becomes, now can you really capitalize down the stretch of this? And then that 27 class needs to be a knockout. And they had a ton of those kids on campus too. But we're just getting started with that. So the time to capitalize is right now. The next few games that they have, I'm not concerned about the kids committing. It's just getting them on campus from all over the country. And it should be broader. Nothing wrong with bringing in the Midwest kids. But Jacob, I'm telling you, you're going to start seeing Texas kids, Louisiana, Missouri, all over the country are going to start coming to games because you've got validation that the head coach is going to be there long term.
And we started this segment, you said, by the idea of Indiana keeping the kids who are already committed. We've had that conversation before. Indiana had 6 or 8 kids who are in the 2026 class who were back on campus last weekend for Michigan State, and that's probably going to be the case again this weekend against UCLA. I know you're big on that. That speaks volumes when some of those returning kids, Henry Olinger, right from the state of Ohio, or Cavante Hugan, the defensive end from Florida, who is a huge kid physically and just in terms of his presence as well. Those those kids returning to campus who are already committed and want to come back, that speaks volumes as well.
Those are the kids that not only do you want on campus, so you don't go visit somewhere else, etc. They should be able to sell Indiana University now. They've been before. They're committed. They're big name recruits. This is where the ball should, again, start rolling downhill for the Hoosiers, typically. And again, they've got a lot of kids coming in. I don't know how much they're going to press on kids in the 27 and 28 classes to commit. That's kind of every program does that different.
Whatever commit means and this far out, right?
Yeah, well, that's the other part of it. Sometimes you'd rather kids not commit yet, to be honest. But the bottom line is still, hey, these guys could be visiting somewhere else. Kids from, like you said, who go? Like, he's a kid from Sarasota. Like, that's not an easy trek. So I've lived in that area. That is a long flight. That is a long day.
Mm-hmm.
He's coming back up again. That's going to help you recruit. Even the kids from Fort Wayne, Indianapolis, Evansville, all those kids seeing him come, that's a good sign. So Indiana football is doing really good off the gridiron with players at the prep level. Now I'm also curious to see if that also helps once we get to the portal, which we'll talk about in a month or so.
Yeah, and what sticks out to me, too, is it's not just 26. It's not just 27. You mentioned 28. And, heck, Indiana's got kids in the 29 class that are coming to at least check it out. I know a lot of those are unofficials, obviously, but just kids who are – I mean, we're talking about freshmen in high school or possibly even eighth graders going into their freshman season who are already thinking about Indiana. And you say it so often, and it's true, that just didn't happen in the past.
No. I mean, they tried to get kids on campus, but they weren't getting the kids that Michigan or Notre Dame had made an offer too early. It just wasn't the case. The only way that might have happened is like, a kid from Center Grove, it's 50 minutes away. Okay, I'll go down for the weekend, but it wasn't serious. Mm-hmm. Now they're getting kids like that from Ohio. That's one of the hardest states in the country to recruit. Yeah. They're also getting kids from back east in Virginia and DC. That is extremely difficult to recruit. No matter, even Penn State sometimes loses those kids. Yeah. Indiana's getting those guys to come to campus. This is a total game changer for the Hoosiers. And I'm curious to see, again, did they put pressure on any of those underclassmen to commit? It wouldn't surprise me if a few did, but that's a possibility.
There's a couple of guys that you wanted to highlight while we're talking recruiting here that Indiana is in on, Indiana's had on campus, and you think Indiana could have a legitimate shot of one with a cool story and two highly rated guys here as of late.
Yeah, the Cavante Hugan kid, I just want to bring him up in general. Like, Indiana doesn't get defensive linemen like that out of Florida.
Dude's a stud.
Yeah, he's a really good player. That's a kid that's probably going to play early in some capacity, even if it's just being a pass rusher. Just want to bring him up. He's committed, but don't forget, just because they're committed doesn't mean it's not an exciting thing. Secondarily, the Amari Nugent kid, like, he could go and play at Florida State. He can go play at Florida. Indiana doesn't get those kids out of Florida. And he's an American heritage. And then the other kid, this is a wild story. He was at the Lemure School. He was a basketball kid, ends up at Bishop Lures, which is a famous program in Fort Wayne, to play football. 6'8", 280, but he's from the Congo originally. I'm probably going to mispronounce his name. Jonas Mua, 6'8", 280. Basketball to football and playing offensive tackle works out really well because you got feet. Mm-hmm. And he's got a wingspan of 7'4", which is insane. That is really crazy. So Indiana's finding gems all over the place, even overseas, apparently. So that is really wild. Indiana football recruiting has changed.
It has changed a lot. A kid we were talking about right before we hit record was Raylon Henry, the four-star corner, who's going to commit in less than a month's time, about 3 weeks or so. Indiana's in with an incredible list: Penn State, Ohio State, Texas A&M, Tennessee, and Alabama. Now, does Indiana pull that off? I don't know. Probably not. But the fact that, and we started, even when you and I first started talking, right, when you came on with the network, the fact that Indiana's even in the conversation with those teams and now has a legitimate argument. It's not just happy to be there. Indiana expects to win some of those battles now with the big bads of the SEC and the tallest of the tall in the Big Ten as well.
Yeah, and he's a St. Francis kid. That's the best program in the greater DC, Baltimore area. They send kids across the country, Auburn, Miami, wherever you imagine. They've sent kids everywhere. That is a big-time program. So Indiana getting in there just in general, like, they'll have 20 kids signed this year, literally.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's really, if you're in Baltimore, that's the school you go to. So they're a dominant program, and they play IMG every year. Like, that's their Super Bowl. So it's best game of the year in a lot of ways. So Indiana is involved everywhere. Florida, Baltimore, the Congo, like it's It's really wild, man. Like Indiana is recruiting like Ohio State, Notre Dame, USC, Texas. That's what's going on.
Indiana recruiting statewide, countrywide, nationwide. You heard it here first from Brian Smith, our Locked On recruiting expert. And it's so much fun to watch. And I can't wait for it to all really catch fire in Indiana, just have talent all over the place, 2 and 3 deep, and really start competing for championships like they're doing this year. And speaking of championships, we're having a debate going on right now on Locked On Hoosiers, and we bring Brian Smith into the conversation. Big Ten or SEC? Which conference produces the national champion this season? We talk about that in our final segment. Coming up next on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. College football is back, and I could not be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands. You've heard it at Memorial Stadium, and you will this weekend when UCLA comes to town. There really is nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to you, the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. If you want to go to the game this weekend for Indiana UCLA, use the Game Time app. If you want to go to a concert or a theater performance or a musical, whatever you want to do, use the Game Time app. They've got the best selection for the best price. I use it for everything I do. I promise I wouldn't steer you wrong, okay? So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. We got our man Brian Smith, the host of the Portal Podcast. I'm your man Jacob Goins. We appreciate you being with us. Make sure you subscribe to both of our channels on YouTube. You hit like on our videos. And if you're listening on audio, make sure you subscribe to us there. Follow us. Turn on those notifications so you never miss a daily episode of the Portal Podcast or Locked On Hoosiers as well. And Brian, I've had this conversation over the last several weeks, and I'm pretty vocal about my thoughts and opinions here. When you take a look at the top 10 or the top 15 or even the top 20 of the AP poll, the Big Ten's pretty top heavy and the SEC is loaded. But I think the Big Ten's big three are better than anything that the Southeastern Conference has to offer. And so my question in the debate has been, if you had to pick a conference right now, third week in October, going into the fourth week of October, if you had to pick a conference to win the national championship as of right now, are you taking the 3, maybe 4 teams from the Big Ten, or are you taking the 5, 6, maybe 7 teams from the SEC?
To win it, it's easy. It's the Big Ten because I think Indiana's number 2 and Ohio State's number 1.
Okay.
That would be my picks. If I had to vote right now, that's how I would vote it. I don't think there's a single dominant team in the SEC. Everybody's got an opinion. But let me give you an example. Like Alabama is really good, but they can't run the ball like they used to be able to. How's that going to play out in the playoffs?
Sure.
You know, on a neutral field, I would take Indiana over Alabama. Never thought I would say that out loud. Yep. And, you know, maybe they would beat Indiana. It's possible, but I still think Ohio State is definitely the best team. And after Bama, is it Georgia? Is it
A&M?
Is it Ole Miss?
Yeah.
I don't know. A&M is a goofy. I don't trust their quarterback. He's very inconsistent, but when he's on, he's on. So I don't think they'll win it, but he's pretty good. I would just know, as it usually is. The SEC is deeper, no shock, but they don't have the top rung like they used to because, as you noted earlier, teams can't stockpile talent and keep it anymore.
Right.
That's why Missouri is really good now. That's why teams like Miami suddenly got all these portal guys. They got a bunch of money to spend. It's not just high school recruiting. You got to hit the portal and be selective, et cetera, and win. Indiana did a better job with it than anybody over the last 2 years. So that's why you can climb quicker, and it's just balanced out. But Indiana's got quarterback play. Ohio State definitely does. Bama does. Like, it's still going to come down to that to a certain degree, but the Big Ten's quarterback play is really good towards the top. Even like Oregon, Dante Moore didn't play great against Indiana. That's the only time he hasn't played that way. Yeah. So, you know, like, Oregon could still end up in the national title game too. They're very capable.
Yep.
Big Ten's really good, man. I don't think it's really that close at the top. It's the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the SEC, Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss. I mean, Vanderbilt's a top 10 team, which people keep doubting them, but all they do is keep winning. They'll have another chance to do that with Missouri this weekend. Oklahoma's hanging in there. Speaking of Missouri, there they are. Tennessee's in that top 25. LSU, I can't figure out what Brian Kelly's squad wants to be. Yeah. Texas the same way. I mean, there's so many teams from the SEC in the top 25 that you can make an argument, right, could win it all. But even if you just take the top three, which has kind of been my argument of Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon, give me those three versus 10 from the SEC. And I'm not even counting, right? I'm not counting Michigan or Illinois in that bunch from the Big Ten. I still believe that the top three of the Big Ten are better than anything that any other conference can offer. Start throwing the Big 12 in there. I don't trust the ACC for anything. I mean, I just think the three at the top of this conference are better than anybody else in the country.
It's kind of odd that it worked out that way this year. But if Dante Moore plays well once they get to the playoffs, Oregon's probably the number 2 or 3 team. Their defense is legit, as Indiana knows.
Yep.
He played very poorly against Indiana. I don't know if that's just because of the Hoosiers or he had an off day, but that's the only time they've looked vulnerable at all. Alabama got beat by Florida State. That's not looking real good right now.
No.
Georgia's offensive line has been a roller coaster, so I don't trust them. Wayne just blew a 9-point lead at Georgia. He always finds a way to do that. Texas and LSU have completely underachieved. A&M, they won at Notre Dame, but that's a different time than where they are now.
Right.
I'm not sure how that would go. Yeah, it's pretty wild, but I would say it's not only the Big Ten, but you could argue, like you said, the top 3 teams are from the Big Ten. It's a legitimate question.
Including your Indiana Hoosiers, who have just continued to win. The schedule's relatively favorable. You and I have gone over that a little bit, and the fact that Indiana has every chance to be undefeated. You've got Fernando Mendoza is the betting favorite to be your Heisman Trophy winner and the number 1 overall pick. You've just got your coach locked down. Everybody's relatively healthy. Indiana did lose a defensive lineman this week, a defensive end starter, which is tough, but for the most part, you're pretty healthy, and Indiana's in the national championship conversation. He is Brian Smith, the host of the Portal Podcast. Check it out, part of our Locked On Podcast Network. I'm Jacob Goins, host of Locked On Hoosiers. We post daily shows talking all things Portal with him, all things Hoosiers with me. So thank you so much for being here. Until next time, college football and Hoosier fans, stay safe, and we'll talk to you later.